Hello, kids. Little experiment today. We've got our Facebook friends here and our Instagram friends here. Can you even tell which way I'm looking? This is me after 4 shifts. Yeah. Hey, Miranda. How are you? Do you like my hair? Hello, cousin. I just wanted to turn on a little live, check in with you guys, see how you're doing. Steven. Hi, Miranda. Scally 123. Best hairstyle to date. Why? Thank you. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this one, as you can see. Back off. I'm coming off of a couple night shifts. Okay, this is what it looks like. But this sweater feels so good. 27. Hey, Steven. 27 and Nat. I don't know what that. Hey, Amanda. Um, so here's an interesting thing coming from the ER, the front lines of this thing. Our volumes are down. When I was at work Thursday, I came into 50 patients. Friday it was 30. Saturday night there were 9. And that's like a 40-bed ER. I had never been in there when there were only 9 patients. And then last night, when I walked up, like every time you walk, as I'm walking into the ER, I'll kind of look over and check out the waiting room just so I kind of know what I'm up against, like what's going on in the waiting room, who's there. It was empty. I've never seen that waiting room empty before, ever, in my career. And so at least in the small towns, the rural places that I'm working in the Central Valley, I think people are staying home, and we're not seeing a ton of corona just yet. There are some cases here and there where it's like, is this corona or is this valley fever? Is this like a fungal infection? Or is this that goddamn vaping stuff? Like kids are still getting sick from vaping, but a lot of my colleagues in the Bay Area, people that work at Highland, for example, that ICU is starting to fill up with corona ventilated patients. That would be bad. Hey, cousin, how we doing? Let me take some of these Instagram questions. Steven, are those patients coronavirus or coronavirus symptoms? What do you mean? Um, we in the Central Valley at this hospital, we have some corona tests that are still pending after a week. Big fail. Like the testing has been so bad. It's been so bad, and it would make such a difference. Let me give an example. And I want to talk about testing for a little bit, teach you a little bit about what it is. So there's this test that everybody's talking about. It's a PCR, polymerase chain reaction. I'm going to explain what that is. Basically, you take a swab from your nose, and if you've got the virus, they heat it up so that the DNA of the virus splits in half, and then they put in a primer, and then they put in the polymerase, which makes the DNA get made again, and then they heat it up and cool it down a whole bunch of times until there's a ton of virus made. It's only going to react if this test is only going to replicate if you actually have the virus in there and then being positive. That's the PCR, okay? There's another, and so that's the test we're waiting on. It could be more rapid, but that'll just tell us if in the moment somebody is shedding virus or not. But it's stupid because we don't get the test back for a week. So somebody could have been at home for a week, then got symptoms, come and got tested. You don't get the test back for a week. By the time you get the test back, they're fine. So the test is worthless. The testing just sucks. There's another test, but listen to this, okay? I didn't come up with this. I read it somewhere. There's another test that's a blood test. It's called serology, and it measures if you are immune to coronavirus. In other words, if you've already been exposed, and if now your body has overcome it and created antibodies. So you can measure short-term antibodies, which are called IgM, or long-term antibodies, which is IgG. Most of the people that I've dealt with in the ER so far, they want to know, are they contagious? Are they infectious? Do they have corona, and are they going to give it to somebody? These are good people. They don't want to give it to anybody. Most of the people that I've seen, they're not sick. They're not sick enough to stay in the hospital. There have been some. They're not sick enough to be admitted or to go to the ICU. And for a lot of places, that's the threshold. We're not going to test anybody unless they're sick enough to be admitted or go to the ICU. But so many people want to know if they can hang out with their parents or grandparents, if they can go back to work at the prison or the daycare or the place where they would potentially be exposing other people. And so they come in, and that's like the main thing that I'm talking about. We just don't have good answers for that. The tests there's a delay, so they're sitting at home. Like if we had a better test, a blood test, this serology, for example, which is a great option. Government, there's a lot of different things you can do, but I think that should be something we should be testing more. Imagine if you got tested, you got this blood test, okay, the IgM and the IgG, corona serology, and it showed you had already been infected. Then you could have this big crown heart thing and walk around saying, which shows you've had it, which means you're not contagious anymore. People could go back to work safely, right? I think that's worthwhile, and I don't understand why we're not including that as part of the strategy. Cousin Drew, Brad, I'll consider you a cousin as well. Hey, Gary. Looking good, Doc. I know. You love the hair. Yeah, well, this is what I look like after. This is the real thing. Steven, I'm wondering if it's because people are staying at home and less injuries and other things. People are not coming into the ER because I think, wisely, they don't want to get sick, because sick people are coming to the ER. They don't want to get corona and get stuck there. That's one reason. And I think a lot of people otherwise are just staying home because they want to kind of do their part and not clog up the ER. And then there's people who don't give a shit, and they come and they waste time in the ER all the time anyway, Hi, Monica. ZZLX. Let's hope this keeps up. I don't think you're referring to my hair. Melts. Ricardo. Steven. The minimal number of them. What are they mostly there for? Well, I mean, the stuff I see in the ER, it's usual stuff. Chest pain, worried that they have a heart attack. Kid had vomiting and needed IV fluids. Another dad had pneumonia, could have been valley fever, could have been a cocci infection. And then there's just kind of a lot of bullshit, like the homeless people come in and they make up things so that they can get a bed and a meal for the night. There's abusers of the system, which really don't need to be there at all. People that come, we have people that come every other day because they get bored and then they call an ambulance. So a lot of it's that nonsense, and it's nonsense. What about CC count? What is CC count? What are you referring to? Hi, Melly. CC County. I don't know what that means. What are your thoughts on hydroxychloroquine thing Trump keeps mentioning? That's a good question. The truth is right now, when it comes to these medications, we don't know what truly works and what doesn't. So the standard in academic medicine is pretty high. You have to be able to demonstrate that something works to prevent a heart attack or to treat a stroke. And then you demonstrate it again, and then you study it again, and it's confirmed repeatedly. That is good medicine. Right now, we've got like one study that's like, yeah, it seemed like it helped, this hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin together. It's the best thing we got. So if somebody's sick, we're going to throw those medicines at them. But can I promise you that they're going to work in the same way that, hey, your cholesterol is high, take Lipitor, it's going to lower it? No, I can't promise you that. So it's experimental. I mean, that's what it is. And in this time, I think it's the right thing to use it. I would use that one. They did a study on, they were talking about Kaletra, this HIV med, ritonavir. Did a study that showed it didn't really help. Some people are still trying it. Some people are not. I probably wouldn't. More studies and research is warranted. But I think hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, it's reasonable to use right now. It's initial. We can't certainty if it works or not, but it's in the category of like, if you had cancer and you went through regular chemo and it didn't work, would you try experimental? I think some of us would, because it's like, what do we got to lose? We're going to die anyway. You know, like if you're that sick, it's like, maybe hydroxychloroquine works. Yeah, let's use it. So I think that's the ethics, and that makes sense to me. Gary Johnson, looks like you had a long day. Gary Johnson, I got up, I was up until 7 in the morning doing the night shift, and then I went and slept for a few hours, and I drove 4 hours back to Berkeley. So this is an accurate reflection of me today. I decided not to pretty myself up. And I love this sweater because it makes me feel that way. Nicole, should I quarantine my cat? Stop it, Nicole. You're blocked. Irene, in my country, people are not taking this virus very seriously. Well, then they're going to be screwed. There's going to be... Do your glasses make you invincible? No, I think my age and being in good health makes me fairly resistant to those of us who are young and healthy do better. Right, like a take-home pregnancy test, coronavirus version. Thank you very much. Imagine if there was an easy pregnancy test version of coronavirus. I mean, I get a little nervous about people checking their own coronavirus test, but direct to consumer, wow, there's a market for that. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. I like that a lot. Monica, that's a good point. Hi, Bran. Thanks for everything you're doing for us. You know what? Let me talk about that for a minute. People saying that, I that's nice to say. I'm working in hospitals that are, I'm not in Manhattan. I'm not at San Francisco General, where I'm sure they're getting higher volumes, and I'm not in an ICU where there's coronavirus everywhere. So I'm not exposed as some of my colleagues. I kind of wish I were. I kind of wish I were in the mix of it more. Maybe our time will come. Maybe all these hospitals will get involved, but it's like a war effort. It's like, shit, I really want to be in those front lines. And the truth is, I thank you for saying that, but yeah, I'm not in the mix as much as I'd like to be. Melt, hey, last time I was watching your live, you were headed to work. You only had 5 tests, which is horrible. Do you have more access to testing now? Sorry if you talked about it joining late. I haven't talked about this. Yeah, a week ago I had 5 tests. The next day I had 170. So the first day it was like, don't test anybody, only if they're admitted or really sick. And then the second day was like, oh, you can test more. And so especially for people where it needed to know if they were going to go back to work at a nursing home, and were they going to expose people. And so that was kind of... Testing is going back and forth from... Everybody agrees if somebody has suspicious symptoms and they're sick and going to be admitted to the hospital, test all of those people because we want to know to treat them. Short of that, there's different recommendations. You're going to hear different things from different people. Some people are going to say, don't test anybody else. Some people are going to say, well, if it matters, if they're going to potentially expose people at work or in their community with what they do and they can't self-quarantine, you should test them. And there's other people that are like, we should be testing everybody. I think we need more data. I wish we could test everybody. I think it matters for people's lives so they can know if they're contagious. I think the more people you test, the more people that are positive that are going to stay home. So I'm an advocate of testing. I don't understand why we don't have these goddamn tests. It's really frustrating and it's really stupid. And I don't know. I don't understand from the top why we're doing what we're doing. It just seems to me like we're trying to artificially keep our numbers down so it looks good, so somebody can get reelected. Sorry to get political, but that's what it looks like to me. Why aren't we testing more? And it comes from the top. There ought to be somebody, some lab that can make money on this, whatever. I'm just going to start going off about that. It's really frustrating. I heard there might be ops to use PrEP to avoid getting corona. That seems... To use HIV medications, that's what you're referring to. There might be ops to use PrEP. Is that what you mean? Those meds have a lot of side effects. I don't know that I like that. That might be a bit much. Hi, Ashley. How are you? I think that I already got it like 2 weeks ago. You may have. What were your symptoms that make you think that you had it? Let's talk about that for a minute. Do you think the tests are fairly accurate? Yes. These PCR tests are pretty good. Over 90-something% accurate. Hey, Core. Shells, I agree. Shane, my brother. Do you think it'll be 18 months till we have herd immunity? It's going to take a while. It ain't going to be 2 months. It's going to be a long time. Let's talk about this concept of herd immunity. Because that's when the virus finally dies and stops circulating. So in the beginning, you're going to get sick people. And it goes up, and then you start getting people who are immune. And eventually you get more people who are immune than sick. And that's when the virus doesn't have anybody else that it can spread to anymore. The way that you grow the immunity of everybody, the herd, is either they get sick and recover, or what else? How else? How else can we get immunity for the herd? Vaccination. Right. So people get vaccinated, and then they have immunity to corona. So when they're exposed, they don't get sick. They don't transmit it. And then that's eventually when this graph is going to go, pew. People think that's going to take months, 6, 12, 18 months. So this shit's not going away. But that doesn't mean we're going to be quarantined forever. It's good you're going to go live with a mental health expert. I think lots of people may be struggling with mental wellness due to the quarantine. I had another panic attack patient from this damn coronavirus and the media and all that stuff. It's a real thing. Krista, no, but you have a Superman shirt that does. I don't know where that's coming from, but I bet that was funny. Hi, cousin. How are you doing? I hope everybody's doing well in Oklahoma. Ashley, food didn't taste good. Diarrhea when I was on pain meds. I was expected to be blocked up, not the opposite. I had dry cough, fever, and I was tired. Those are pretty good symptoms. This has been in the media a little bit that one of the symptoms can be you like lose your sense of smell a little bit. It's not like for sure, but it's just like another thing. Tom Hanks described it as the blahs. Didn't have a clear fever, cough, whatever. He's just kind of mopey and like, I think a lot of people feel this way just staying at home and being locked in. They're like, oh, I just kind of, and then it's like, do I have corona? Then you get kind of paranoid and you're kind of panicky and, like that's all pretty normal. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to do at 1 p.m., maybe we'll hop on and do some of this live stuff, but Susie Zen is a great therapist, psychotherapist, adolescent and adult. She does some eating disorder, trauma work. We're talking about anxiety, stress, and what you can do to stay sane during these times, because I don't think they're going away. I think we're looking at weeks to months of this shit. You guys like it when I cuss, or is that too much? Yeah. So those symptoms, Ashley, could totally have been from that. Yep. And the only way you would know now, if you get the test now, it's probably too late. You'll be negative. The only way you would know now is if you've got a blood test, which of course is not very readily available. But I already went on my soapbox about the disaster that testing is right now. Do you think extreme social distancing is helping? I think social distancing helps. What do you mean extreme? What do you mean by extreme social distancing? So honestly, I tried to get it at first before things were closed. And then I realized bigger picture, I understand more. If you stay home and you're not sick, it's fine. If you're self-isolating, you don't know that you need a test. If, on the other hand, you work at a nursing home, oh my God, do not expose those people. Like, this thing is going to go through nursing homes like the Grim Reaper and kill all of these old nursing home people. That is a place where if you're like, well, maybe I've got symptoms, maybe whatever, like get checked, take your temperature, consider getting a test, and staying at home. Like, that is important not to spread it in places like that. Like not leaving my house, extreme social distancing. Is it helping? I think we have to have faith that it does and will, but we're not going to know. The problem is we're going to see more cases and deaths, and we're not going to be able to see the impact of the social distancing. It's going to take time. It's going to take weeks, but I think you can trust that it's the right thing to do, and that's part of doing your part. I think you're the best. No, you're the best. I don't know why you say that, but I'm glad you got better. Stephen, what can cause someone to have no symptoms with a virus invading their body? Well, a lot of times people can be carriers. It's just, we're all different, and some people have immune systems that when a virus gets in and attacks for whatever reason, your immune system may be better than mine and it fights it off and you don't even notice. That happens. We talked a lot about young, especially young healthy people. 80% have mild symptoms. The number, learning more and more about this stuff, the number of people that actually have no symptoms may be under 20%. 18% was the number I read the other day that actually have no symptoms. And those people, theoretically, they can transmit it, and that is important for all these yahoos on the beach in Florida to stay home for sure. Like, that's just dumb, right? Like, it's just dumb. But if somebody doesn't have any symptoms, they're less likely to be able to transmit it and be contagious. We know for sure, and it makes the most sense, that you're the most contagious when you're the sickest, when you're coughing the most, right? When you're spitting that virus out there. When your fever's the high, when you're sick is when typically you're the most contagious. We call it viremia. The virus is running through your blood and it's invading your cells, destroying them, replicating, and it's kind of when it's at your sickest that you are the most contagious. These people that are not symptomatic are still theoretically contagious. That does matter, but not as much. Their body just fights it off better than others, for whatever reason, are more vulnerable and susceptible to getting sick. Hi, Annie. Monica, I'm from Jersey, so it's all cool. Ashley Summers, blood test me. I would if it were available, but it's not. Thank you, government. Not good. Not good. I think there should be testing. Have they released more information on who's high risk? Can we talk about what pre-existing health conditions are at risk? My 9-month-old has heart disease. This is not a pediatric viral disease. So I was reading this other study that was looking at all this stuff, and I think there were 100 and something children that were exposed and only that were infected, and only one of them died, and it was for... I wouldn't worry about it with your kid. It's just not something that this is not thank God, right? It looks like it'll be the case that more children will die of influenza than coronavirus. So I don't think I'm worried about your kid. The high risk is number one just by age. So 99.8% of people that get it survive. It starts to go up in the 50s, and then like 60s, 70s, 80 can be up to over 14% death rate. So age is a big one. And then you look at these statistics, if people have had a heart attack or a stroke before, if they have lung disease, uncontrolled diabetes, high blood pressure, all of this chronic disease, the more of that those guys have, and age, the more, these are the people that are getting into trouble. And let me give you an example, because I think this lady had it, but this was before testing. Sweet little old lady in her 70s, still smoking, smoked her whole life, right? We call this poor protoplasm, bad protoplasm. She's sick to begin with. At home, she wears oxygen because her lungs don't work to begin with. This is the kind of person, when she gets coronavirus, she's toast. So high risk. Maybe she survived. But that's the kind of person that's at such incredible risk of getting this and succumbing to this disease. Not in good shape to begin with. What would I tell her? Stop smoking! Somebody like her, and if you can't stop, minimize. For all you vapors out there, stop vaping. Not a good time to test and see if your lungs, let me vape and throw some Corona in there. We'll see how that goes. Bad idea. Bad idea. We've seen these cases of this vaping nonsense too, that it's vaping. If you're vaping, you've been sold bullshit on vaping. What are the stats in the Bay Area at the moment? I don't know. Sorry. Maybe somebody can look that up. Gary, so is the quarantine really just to buy time for more beds? Once the quarantine is over, won't we most likely see an increase in infected, and the quarantine didn't really matter on the virus spread? So your first question, is the quarantine to buy time for more beds? Social distancing and the home quarantine, the idea is that if everybody got sick at once, we wouldn't have enough beds. And so by putting some distance in between us, the virus is not going to spread as rapidly. And instead of, a million people getting sick in a week, if you had a million people getting sick over 3 or 4 months, the hospitals and the ICUs can handle that more. I think that's right. I believe that. And I think that's why we're doing all this stuff, and it's the right thing to do. Your question of, well, at what point are we going to end the quarantine? And when we end the home quarantine and people go out, there's certainly a risk that there could be an increase in cases again. That makes sense to me. What would be really nice? If we had testing that demonstrated that they had immunity and were safe to go out. Am I like going back on my soapbox and like beating a dead horse here? It's just so frustrating, some of this stuff. I just don't agree with it. I think it's bad policy. I think it starts at the top. I think you're the best because you're smart, empathetic, and helping others. It's all an image. It's all an image. I would like to be more on the front lines, to be honest. But I think I'll get my shot. This is I don't know, especially for the men, no offense women, but for the men out there, like, did you ever wonder, like, do you have what it takes to go to war? If you were born in the 1920s and World War II rolled around, like, would you go? And I think for the longest time, growing up in the 80s and seeing these wars that we did where it was like, should we have been doing that? My podcast had a guy, episode like 5 or 6, who, when he was 17, he lied several times so that he could enlist and go to war. And I was like, God, that is awesome. That was a great generation. My generation is just a bunch of pussies. Like, we're soft. We wouldn't do that. I couldn't understand it. But now, with this corona thing, like, I get it. I think those of us in healthcare, like, it's this like sense of duty, of calling. It's scary. There's times where it's been like, I got a 1 in whatever chance this thing's gonna knock me off. People I work with who are older, doctors who have their own medical conditions, they got some guts coming to work. This shit gets scary, but there's also like there's a bit of an excitement and a thrill to it, and it's a special time, and this is our World War II. And I'm imagining, what if I sat out? We've had some doctors that aren't coming to work anymore. They're afraid. They don't want to get sick. And for the older ones who have medical conditions, I don't judge that. But these guys, I know a couple that aren't older. They don't have medical conditions. They're draft dodging. They're dodging this thing. And I just like, for me, being trained as a doctor, having the skills that I do, and the need that I think is still coming, I could not imagine my life sitting on the bench and then the rest of my life being like, God, I didn't step to the plate. I didn't do my part. Whatever that was. That would be really difficult to live with myself then. So then now I understand why these young men, World War II, were like, I got to do this. Like, this is my calling, opportunity, duty to contribute and be a part of it. I don't know. I get that now. I get it now. This is going to be our thing. This is going to be our World War II, where you come together, you do your part. We're going to survive. We're going to win. There will be some losses, and it's going to forge a generation. And out of it, you're going to see all kinds of good things and bravery and just all of the ways that people are being thoughtful about each other and their communities and reaching out and helping each other, all this good stuff. And you're going to see a lot of bullshit. You're going to see a lot of bad politics and evil, and maybe I'm just cynical and old, but you're going to see a dark side too come out. And we're going to survive and pull through it. A lot of people are going to show their colors. And it's been surprising watching some of them already. Some where I've just been like, wow, that was badass. My director just stepped up and intubated this guy the other day. I was just like, that was real courage. I will follow that man, like I will follow that guy. And then others that run the other way, and it's just so disappointing. So disappointing. I don't know how I got onto that. How'd you guys get me onto that? I don't even know where that came from. Wendy, takeaways from your night shift, seeing more cases? No, not a ton, not yet. Little stuff here and there. I talked about bias before. If somebody comes in, with itchy eyes and congestion and they have allergies, don't diagnose corona, diagnose allergies. You still have to practice good medicine. You can't just assume it's all corona, and dealing with these, like what's the right thing to test. And we have all these protocols of like, who do we isolate? We want to isolate somebody right from the beginnings to minimize their exposure. We don't want anybody else to. There's all these kind of crazy preparation things that these protocols of, well, if they have a fever and a cough and an exposure, we're going to put them in room 3 and we're going to go full isolation, and everybody that deals with them has to go in full garb and everything. And then it changes. And a week later it's like, well, no, we're only going to put on the full garb if we're intubating somebody, which is higher risk. It's like, why are things changing? Are we running out of supplies? Like, why are we changing these rules? It makes sense, but it's just things are changing every week. I haven't seen a lot, but I've heard from colleagues who are working in the ICU. Their ICUs are starting to fill up with ventilated corona patients. That's at Highland. So I think it's coming. It's important, breathberry, Aglaya. It's important to strengthen immune system, continue working out, take vitamins, immune system, tea, ginger, lavender, honey. Whatever you believe in is great. I'm not a big vitamin supplement person. I think sleep matters. I think managing stress matters. I agree that exercise and eating well. I think you eat a well-balanced diet with fruits and vegetables. You don't need supplements and vitamins. I don't think they do very much above that. If you eat like shit, sure, pile up. If you eat like shit and you do drugs, yes, take all the supplements you need to boost your immune system. But I would just recommend fruits and vegetables, and then working, and then taking care of your mental health during this time. Hey, Erica. Young people should stay home. I think so too. Hi, Dr. Grasitis. Jennifer Grasitis, dermatologist. Have you learned how to operate a ventilator yet? I can't wait for you to do hospital medicine when Kaiser needs you to go. Why Michael go to heaven? I don't know what that means. Oh, you can't hear me? Can somebody else? Are you guys not hear me? I think you can hear me. Hello, Aunt Tracy. Hey, Pete Lee J. Hi, Leah. Hope your family's doing good, and your kiddos and your little girl. Cousin, Crystal, your Brecken is so cute. I'm so happy that little guy's doing well. Your pictures are so cute of him. Keep those coming. Illinois is asking doctors and nurses to come out of retirement. Yeah, so anticipating, surge in need for healthcare nurses and doctors and respiratory therapists. Those guys are on the front line. Wow. You sign up, you show up. Very noble. Hopefully they will supply the PPE. Yeah, we need the protective equipment. That's for sure. I can say we're in a lockdown over here. People are drinking. Yeah, so there's an interesting thing about, I had a guy came in who was drunk, who was at a bar, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing at a bar? Shouldn't that be all closed? But imagine like how many alcoholics we have in the country. If you close all the bars and then they can't buy it at grocery stores, your ICU beds are going to be full with severe alcoholics withdrawing, shaky, seizures, vomit, like withdrawing from alcohol. So good policy is actually to make sure there's enough alcohol available so that doesn't happen, because you don't want to fill up the ICU beds with alcohol withdrawal guys, right? So it's like, you got to think that through. I think that makes sense. Ein Tishnar. These Instagram names are hard. Many of us sitting at home wish we had chosen a medical profession. You know what? There's plenty of ways to help. Get creative. Think about how you can contribute. My mom just signed in. Hi, Mom. Hi, Erica's mom. Hello. Intubation in PAPR for COVID rule-outs are a bit chaotic to say the least. Had one yesterday. It was not pretty. Intubation for a COVID rule-out sounds aggressive to me. We had somebody that we were considering. So intubation is where somebody's lungs have failed. They're not getting enough. Their lungs aren't able to deliver oxygen. And so you take a tube and you put a tube down in here and you're able to concentrate oxygen and give 100% oxygen instead of normal 21% oxygen, or it increases a little bit as you do the little nasal cannula, mask, etc. So the intubation is the most potent concentrated way to give oxygen to the lungs, which this is the life support that we give people when they have respiratory failure from this coronavirus. ARDS, that form of respiratory failure. So to me, intubating them for a rule out, assuming that they're sick and they need that form of life support, yeah. But that's when that's like a high risk thing for. Hey Liz, are you still nursing? I don't remember. Are you in the lines of all this stuff? Can't wait to go Hawaii or Miami. Your birthday is April 6th. Cancel my trip. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. There's a lot of loss. I was thinking about all the kids graduating from college that aren't going to get to walk. That sucks. I mean, there's so many things people are missing out on that just suck. I am, but in the clinic. Girl, Liz, we got to get you back in the hospital. We're going to need you. We're going to need you. Get you back in that IMCU. Yeah, a lot of loss. There's already people who are dying. That's a huge form of loss. But trips that are missed out on, graduations. I mean, so much loss. So much loss. Liz, get your butt in the hospital. We will need you. Call of Duty. Why does it take so long to get test results back? Because we weren't prepared. We weren't ready for this. Because the number of tests is higher than the capacity of the lab to run it, of the amount of tests that we have. We just all the way along on that chain. So, you got to have the right thing to swab it with. Then you have to put it in the thing. Then you have to mail it to a place that has the reagent that can run it. And then they have to have the manpower in the machine to be able to do it. All of those things on a big scale were not in place. And we're still transitioning to being able to do more of that stuff. Liz, you're not that old. Stop. We may need you. Brenda, tell Liz she's not that old. So, hi Nicole. My step 1 has been delayed indefinitely. Yeah, so what are we doing with that? So what are you supposed to do in for medical school? Is that going to be canceled? Is it going to be transitioned to online? I don't know. Plus, we are clogging with unnecessary testing. Are you seeing a lot of tests? You know what? Unnecessary testing, people are worried. And part of what we do in medicine is help them to feel better. There should be more testing. God damn it. Stop setting up a system. You look at some of these places that did well, and a big reason is testing, and we're not going in that direction. And I'm like, why? Whatever. Thoughts on hydroxychloroquine for treatment debate. We talked about that earlier. I think it's experimental, but I think there's enough, there's enough evidence now to try it. It's not for sure. There needs to be more studies. We need to know better science about whether it works or not. But the stuff I saw, I think most of us would put a patient who is sick with corona on hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. Yep. I know you just got here. Hi, Laura. So, I would put it on there. It's just what else do we have? They're safe, So, number one, you want to make sure you're not giving a medicine that's going to harm somebody, that's going to make them worse. The azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine appear to be safe. Certain things you have to monitor, kidney function, the heart EKG, QT prolongation, that kind of stuff, whatever, but it's fine. And then they're cheap. So it's not like this compassionate use thing of the super expensive antiviral whatever that it doesn't even work. So it's cheap, and then there's maybe it works. I think that's fine as long as it's not going to hurt somebody. Don't forget, like, there's going to be people that are saying, "Oh, we should use this, and you should use that, and you should do whatever," but it's all just guesses until you have good science, and good science takes time. We're not going to know the real truth until we do good testing, which means you take a bunch of people, ideally thousands, not 20. The more people you have, the more likely that the question you're answering is actually going to be true. You take large groups of people, thousands, you randomly put some of them in the group that gets the medicine, you randomly put the other half in the group that doesn't get the medicine, and you don't tell the patient, and you give somebody a sugar pill and you give the other one the real thing, and you see, is there a difference? That's what you need, and academics are trying to set up and do right now. That's how we'll know. So right now, you don't know. But again, I think there's enough that's like, hey, this is worth trying, but it's experimental. That's what experimental is. Right to try legislation is a go. Is there any way to know when shops and travel will most likely open up again? No. I think for sure when we see less cases and less deaths, but I don't know. Weeks to months? God, this isn't going to go on 6 months. That'd be beyond insanity. Woman of the Moon, welcome. Mystic Matt, also welcome. Krista, Vendy, what's happening? Oh my God, Corey. So happy you're here. I hope I get to work with you next week. Joyce, 27. Why do ER physicians need to get approval for COVID testing from the county or hospital's infectious disease docs? That's still the case in places that I work. And the reason is because there is limited testing capacity. Either the test kits are limited, the manpower, the machines, all that stuff is limited. And then third, the other thing is there is administrative work. You have to keep track of people. You have to call them back and tell them if it's negative or if it's positive. If it's positive, so there's all this work that comes with it too. And they're just not able to handle the volume. And that's not the plan of this country, apparently. Ugh. We should be doing more testing, I think. That's my opinion. What do you guys think? I don't like to talk politics, but let's just... So, is Trump doing a good job? Is he doing a good job? And B, are we going to have an election? I don't hear anything from Bernie and Biden. Like, the talk in the news is like, Bernie's done. Is that true? Are we actually going to have an election? And how is this going to play out? Is it going to help Trump? Is it going to hurt Trump? I certainly have my opinions on how we've managed this from a federal government perspective, which has been very, very poor. We're going to learn a lot. I'm curious what you guys think about how this thing is going to affect the politics, because this is still... What happened to Fauci today? He was a no-show. I have no idea. Anthony Fauci and I are not on texting basis. Well, he seems like a nice guy. He's got to put up with a lot, Biden is not coherent. Joe Biden has some form of dementia. I mean, I don't want to cause trouble, but I think people are pretty clear he's got some kind of cognitive decline that's very noticeable with his speech, and he's let some memory slips. I think that's real. I don't think we've talked about that in the media. And Bernie has a stent in his heart. So there's your choices. You got 3 old white guys battling for king of America. And Trump's the healthiest of the 3 of them. God. Anyway, political implications of all of it. I think doing the right thing in a government, from a federal government standpoint, means listening to the experts. It means doing what's right for the people, for the average person, especially those who are the most vulnerable and weakest. And it's shouldn't be about an election or a re-election or party politics and just watching this stuff with that stimulus package is just nauseating. It's just really disappointing because it's an opportunity to really focus on a single goal, which is saving lives with this thing. And then number two is keeping everybody afloat in the meantime. And I'm not totally opposed to some big business getting some help, but not at the expense of the little guy getting nothing. It's just, yeah, a lot of people need money, unemployment. And I'm worried about that stuff more than, sometimes I worry more about that, the cost of all this stuff, than the actual virus killing people, you know? That's me. All right, should we wrap this thing up? You guys have anything else you want to say? I know you love my hair. Yeah, it'll look nicer tomorrow. Today is bedhead after the night shift and a 4-hour drive. So, I hope you guys are all taking care of yourselves, your families, thinking of ways to contribute in your community. Do your part. Do the social distancing. Keep washing your hands. Think about the end. Think about the day when this thing is done and we've survived and gotten through it and we've learned some things and gotten stronger. And it won't happen again like this. We will be more prepared next time. But take one more question. Newsom said hospitals need to increase beds by 40%. Is that realistic? I don't know the numbers. It sounds like, thank you, Erica, on the sweater game. Yeah. One hospital I worked at was able to go from 10, ability to take care of 10 ventilated patients to 100. They got creative with tents and using operating rooms and, really expanding capacity. So we can get creative in this time and, build our ability to take care of people during this. A lot of good things coming out of it too. Don't. It's easy to focus on the fear and the negative and the end of the world and all that stuff and the clickbait and all those things. But, good people are doing good things. And, my God, that's an N95 mask in the trash can. Pull that out now. I don't know why that's in there. I think this is from before the thing. These things are like gold now. Okay, I'm done. You guys take care of yourself. Get plenty of rest. Eat your fruits and vegetables. Exercise a little bit. Take care of your mental health and those closest to you. We'll catch you next time.